I have a check disc in my hand here, a screener DVD check disc for a film. Technically, I don't believe it's out yet, called Bite. It comes from Scream Factory, Shout Factory. I'm sure it'll be Scream Factory label when it actually gets its release. It's a newer thing, and they sent these out for reviewers to review, so I give it a watch because it seemed like a very interesting plot, just reading the press material that I received on it. Basically what happens, and I'll just put this down because there's really nothing to see here, but basically what happens is, if you've ever seen the movie Contracted, it's a lot like Contracted, but it may be in relation to Contracted the same way that Halloween and Friday the 13th are both slasher films, but totally different type of slasher films, I guess you could say. They have that common core, but different subjects. That's kind of like how you're going to compare Contracted to Bite when you see both of them. Bite starts off with a little found footage action, I guess you could say, as our leading lady and her two friends are on a bachelorette getaway to Costa Rica. I think a week or two, or maybe, I don't really know the time period. I think it's just a couple of days or a week at the most before they're supposed to have the big wedding. And the girl's there, and you can tell her friends are getting her to do stuff. They're drinking, they're partying. Things happen. More than one thing. I ain't going to mention that because we don't want to spoil it. But ultimately, while they go to this water hole, the lead chick gets bit. And we don't see what bites her, but you can imagine it's going to lead to plenty of trouble. And it does, because essentially, as we move along, and the drama from the wedding, and the fact that his mama doesn't like her, and stuff like that comes into play, she is changing, I guess we could say. She's getting some blisters, some nasty, bumps on her, sort of like Contracted. Sexual stuff happens and it gets nasty, sort of like Contracted, but she's also turning into, apparently, whatever it is that bit her. So she tries to get a hold of a doctor, and she can't really seem to get a hold of one. She tries some things, and it just gets worse and worse and worse, and ultimately it spirals out of control to, it gets to the point of no return, and that's when things get pretty violent, and things, are revealed with the friends side of stuff, and it's just drama type thing mixed in with some body horror. Now, I liked it. I liked it overall. I cannot talk about it without mentioning Contracted because they do share a lot of the same things, or at least they seem like they do. Although Contracted is, of course, a more sexually based thing. If you've seen that, you know where that goes. This doesn't go that direction. Kind of takes another turn. But at the core of things, it's very similar, and it's entertaining. I think the leads, they kind of try to be a little hip maybe with their dialogue and stuff. It tries to be a little bit more natural than maybe it actually is with their deliveries to one another. But it's a fun movie. The body horror stuff is pretty fun. There's some pretty good effects here, which is probably the bread and butter of the whole thing. There's the whole mystery of what actually bit her and what she's turning into. And we somewhat maybe get the answers. I don't know. Maybe I'm not the best person for naming bugs and what type of bug is what, but I'm still not sure what she turned into, although it gets pretty crazy by the time this movie wraps up. The only odd thing, and I don't know if this was some kind of shoddy editing thing that just happened on the review disc, or if this is going to make the final cut, or maybe if I'm just totally tripping, because I'm pretty sure during one scene, and maybe it isn't that important to the ultimate, review, but I noticed it. And during one scene, she's having one of these little nightmare things. She has these from time to time in the movie. And she wakes up, and she's soaking wet, and she's got like a nightgown thing on, and soaking wet. So somebody comes knocking at the door. She comes through to answer the door, and she's in her underwear. Well, we cut back to the person outside the door. We cut back to her, and now she's back in the gown. And then she removes the gown to her underwear. So I think that's a little bit out of order there. I mean, I think so. I don't know how, with something this big, I mean, it's Shout Factory, and all that. I don't know if that's just a minor thing or if I missed something. I don't think I missed something. I think it's an editing error, and I don't know. Maybe that'd be corrected by the time the final one is available for people to see. If you have a review copy of this, or if you've seen it and you know what I'm talking about, feel free to chip in down here in the comments. But overall, I would say Bite's good enough. It's a fun movie. It's got some pretty neat little gross stuff going on. The lead's not bad, and it's pretty clever, even though it does borrow some stuff from Contracted. So overall, I would say if you get the chance to see Bite, give it a shout out and a watch. Mostly a watch, because why would you shout out something if you haven't seen it? But nonetheless, that's Bite. going to be from Shout Factory. I cannot remember the director's name, but I'm pretty sure it's the same dude that did, I believe, Ejecta, which Scream Factory released last year. Same guy. It's like Archibald, Chad Archibald, maybe, something like that. It does not say on there, and I did not have the stack of papers with me that they sent with that. So if you see Bite, let me know what you think of it down there below. But I think it's solid. I think it's good enough. And if Scream Factory's going to start doing their own stuff, if they keep it along the lines of this, I think it'll be some pretty neat stuff coming along.